start with the fine. Carson Hocevar, for a little extracurricular activity, Bob, gets a $50,000 fine and a loss of 25 driver points. Understanding he wasn't likely going to make the playoffs anyway, but pretty hefty fine for Mr. Hocevar.
Yeah, it's very consistent with the penalties NASCAR has issued out recently for spinning somebody under caution, or even in a on track incident. I mean, you saw Austin Hill. What was he? 25 points and $25,000. Well, double the fine because the cup purses are bigger than the Xfinity purses, and there you go. I believe this same penalty they gave William Byron for a Hamlin incident a year or two ago. That actually got, I want to say, a little bit changed on appeal, but NASCAR's changed the wording in the rule book to kind of fix that loophole. So it's pretty much expected. Why didn't NASCAR hold them 2 laps? My understanding is that NASCAR is only going to hold somebody 2 laps if they are 100% sure in the moment. I think this one they wanted to probably go and look back. Just there were some thoughts that Harrison Burton had brake checked at one point during all this exchange. I think they want to go back, look at data, kind of pour through things a little bit more before issuing a penalty.
Oh no, Jim, you're not a big fan of waiting a couple days. We would have preferred to see more like the truck race.
They didn't wait a couple days when I think it was Layne Riggs got a 2-lap penalty. They didn't even hesitate to make the call in race control. On Sunday, they didn't even mention the incident or either team during the caution when the incident took place. So what you're telling me is that while I completely agree that the penalty itself is in line with what they've done in the past, it's becoming ridiculous that they're not making calls in the race. If the incident on Friday was immediately apparent, then an incident in which a driver receives a $50,000 fine and stripped of 25 points, which is actually a far worse penalty than being parked 2 laps, and it's not even discussed or the team called to the hauler, I just think is a lack of not doing your job, honestly. And the thing is that this is becoming all too frequent. It didn't used to be this way. I'm sure Bob would agree that we did not have regular instances of in-race call penalties for incidents on the track that were issued the Tuesday or Wednesday after a race until very recently. And I think it does the sport a disservice by doing so, because just like any other major sport that offers fines and stuff on Wednesday after the game, it doesn't mean anything. If you penalize the person when it happens, it affects the outcome of the sporting event. We don't know how the race would have changed if Carson Hocevar was parked at the time of the incident. The whole race could have changed, or nothing could have changed. We don't know if a guy was penalized for a flagrant foul at the time it happened, if the football game would have changed. Everything could have changed, or nothing could have changed. The point is, you don't know. And doing it after the fact, to me, just is like, it's almost like a, let's fend off the criticism and give the guy a penalty. Call it in the race or don't call it.
Well, let's talk about what happened with Hamlin and Kyle Larson. A little back and forth going on. That was under caution, Bob. And, was that just a minor incident because it was between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, nobody lost spots, right? Nobody, Harrison Burton got spun and lost spots there under caution, from what I could tell, and had damage. So I think definitely a little bit, and also I think they were probably going at a higher speed, Larson and Harrison Burton, right? Or Hocevar and Harrison Burton, because they were just right after the caution came out. So, I think I didn't think the Hamlin Larson thing deserved any reaction from NASCAR. And going back to Layne Riggs, I think they haven't necessarily liked everything they've seen from Layne, the way he's been racing people, and potentially want to send a message. And so should you officiate these things a little bit differently? Do you officiate the trucks when you've had a just a crazy finish there at Phoenix, a championship race that kind of went amok, and trying to rein those guys in? Of course, one of those players in that truck race was Hocevar. So, if the one thing I will say is that I understand NASCAR potentially wanting to wait to make sure, but in Hocevar's instance, if you say, his resume over the last 2 years doesn't give him the benefit of the doubt, I'm somewhat good with that too, right? Like if they want to take some past history into consideration when they make whether to make a decision in the moment, I'm okay with that.
Jim?
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, I also know there's different people in race control, right? But I do think that you need to show some consistency. I think incidents that take place in the race should be addressed in the race whenever possible. I just don't see what good it does anybody, fans, participants, or anyone, or the sport itself, actually, to address these things days after the race is over. The whole point, I mean, of creating the disqualification system, which is the biggest thing you could do to someone, to do it at the track, was to prevent that decision from coming down on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And yet we're still doing the same thing for lesser offenses. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't understand why NASCAR even wants to put itself in that position, quite frankly.